This is the Business of Apps podcast, bringing you actionable insights from the leaders of the global app industry and the world's fastest growing apps. You can find more app news, data and analysis over at businessofapps.com.
Welcome to the Business of Apps podcast. On this show, we invite app industry professionals to cover various topics, and we promise to do our best to keep it both insightful but brief. If you haven't subscribed to our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or other podcast platforms where you can find us, I strongly encourage you to do that. Once you subscribe, you will be getting episodes of this show on your device as soon as it's available. In this episode, we have Naksha Ruiz, Solution Consultant and User Testing. Naksha, welcome to the Business of Apps podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me today.
Terrific. Thank you for coming. All right. As always, I'm setting up the stage first, and here we go. Okay, a bit of a mental gymnastics. Imagine you're holding a smartphone in your hand. You just purchased it. You've unpacked it, turned it on, and now browsing through its default apps, checking out its features. You're consciously taking mental notes on features that tick off boxes for you. That is the rational part. Right, but don't you notice that holding that phone in your hand makes you feel good? We, human beings, are driven by emotions. Even on occasions when you feel like we're strictly rational, your decisions are still influenced by your emotions. Now, this episode stands out the rest because, with the exception of the episode with Joe Sheppy, CEO of Solstin, where we talked about the psychology of app user acquisition, we haven't touched emotions in app marketing. But we're going to change it today by having Naksha and talking about driving app engagement with empathy. But first, Naksha, let's kick off this episode with talking about you. Tell us about yourself and your background in tech.
Yeah, sure. So it's a bit of a crazy background in tech now. When I think about it, I think I've been exposed to technology since I was little. I'm from 1991, so 90s, 2000, when internet was starting. Probably got the first Nokia. I remember first Nokia text message, internet. Like all of that.
Those days.
Yeah, those days, where you only had the snake on your Nokia. But I think obviously that exposure I grew with it and how with the technology evolving. And when I was at university, I worked for the online department, and they were designing back in Venezuela what it was the first online courses. It was like the wow, the moment, like it was so innovative, having the idea of having videos, someone narrating and giving classes, and people being able to take it at their own pace. And I was creating and planning all of that content. So I think that was my first full-on experience in tech. And then I moved to London in 2012. I started working in hospitality, as immigrants do sometimes. That's the easy start. And the whole company started working on a refresh of their technology. And I started supporting the IT team on the whole refresh on the back of house systems, the till system. And I think that's when I started understanding technology in the day-to-days of a job, of an organization, or in general, right? Like the user experience. I was ultimately started selling to someone behind a till, and then understanding how that till needed to be designed to make my life easier. Kept optimizing processes with tech across hospitality businesses, and then I switched sides. I always say that I came to the dark side, but actually it's the bright side of the SaaS world, where I became a senior solution consultant for a hospitality software business. It was great because I work on change management, training, how do we build this or use software inside operational and companies and functions like HR, finance, marketing. And just before coming to user testing, I was at Hootsuite, combining a bit of that, right? Communication, marketing, everything that was happening at the moment. And then I got fascinated with the whole user testing perspective, and I got to come here to yeah, keep talking and keep being involved on what's human behaviors and how human behavior affects everything we do in tech.
Yeah, that's a great trajectory. You just brought up an interesting memory to me with your reference to using video in education, because I vividly remember first time when I saw the courses on physics from Stanford on iTunes U, which was I think I'm not sure if it still exists on iTunes from Apple, but there used to be a big directory of educational material and different universities were putting up the whole libraries of video lectures there, psychology, physics, chemistry, etc. And right now you can find this stuff on YouTube, of course, but back then it was really great to check out the whole set of lectures from a top-notch professor from Stanford right on the iTunes U. And yeah, it was a really transformative moment to get to the knowledge which regularly you have to pay to go to the university. And at that point, you can just get it basically for free, just to grab it if
Yeah.
you want it. Yeah,
Yeah, 100%. I think it's amazing how tech has allowed us to have access to so many things. And I know that there is the side of the conversation when people are technology is bad and with all of the AI, etc. But I think it has such a great power for learning, for awareness. Like how many movement have been on the last 10, 15 years with and building awareness across the society. And I think it's just amazing. Well, it's still amazing that you are in the other side of the world compared to me and we are having this conversation. I think all of that
exactly.
is just great, and love those benefits and being able to connect with it on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely. Speaking of human psychology, it's really hard for us to keep the balance and keeping both part of every technology in mind, good and bad. So we're going from one extreme to the other, and hopefully we're going to reach this equilibrium when we do appreciate all benefits of the technology we're using, and at the same time remember about the externalities, the bad part, but still recognizing that the technology brings us a lot of advancement in the society in general.
Yeah, 100%.
Now, give me a quick thumbnail sketch of your company, UserTesting. What do you guys do, and how does it make a difference for your clients?
Sure. So user testing is a human, like I just want to say that you can test with users by the name, but it's a human insight solution. So we enable companies to see, hear, and talk to their customers. So they can understand how the customers engage with their products, their design, or even a brand experience. So I always like to say that we allow customers to connect with their clients in any way they can possibly imagine. If we can focus on the whole digital development life cycle, when it goes from, oh, I got an idea, let me ask people that are my potential clients to see what they think. And but also I might just try to understand if what I'm offering is good. What would they change from my website or my app, or simply brand awareness? So we provide businesses with that ability of getting that fast feedback from all sorts of users across the world. And we do it from a SaaS perspective. So we have a self-serve platform, but also we do offer services to do everything, like inside services to do everything for our clients, as well as change and consulting services. Like if there are so many companies, and you will be surprised that don't connect with their clients, everything has worked so far, like let's go with instinct. And implementing something like user testing might be hard, so we also have that part of the support. So instead of telling you, oh, it's just a SaaS solution, we have a full end-to-end solution to bring that real-time feedback and ultimately helping businesses to understand their customers better, leading to more success, user-friendly products and services, and bringing then empathy. And I'm very passionate about human behavior. I'm also a certified coach, because I really think it's fascinating how our behaviors and emotions affect everything we do. So user testing empowers any organization to bring that empathy to their day-to-day and making sure that we are connecting with those emotions.
Yeah, exactly. It's unbelievable how rarely you can see people realize that everything we do, every technology, every service, every product comes down to this thing that is sitting on your neck, your brain. This is the source of all these glories, all benefits, all achievements and problems. And this is great that you help your clients to get out of the bubble of what they believe is right, their likes, their preferences, what they consider to be great about the product, and actually helping them to see their product from the point of view of their client and understand where is the connect and where is the disconnect, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. Because I think one of the most fascinating things about seeing this user testing in practice, and what I've seen with many clients across Europe and even with my colleagues in the US, is that it could be a minimum thing. It could be something so small, like how a message is written, how an image is put in front of you, the day you got that image in front of you, or how the categories of a menu has been aligned and sorted. Like we are all different entities as human beings, and I
Exactly.
think if we don't understand who's that persona, like marketing always speaks, oh, you need to have a niche, you need to think about that perfect persona. When you see marketing pitch, they are like, so James is 8xh and he likes this, and then is Clara. So we try to picture it, but imagine if you can get those personas to tell you exactly how they feel. And sometimes we are a combination now of qualitative and quantitative research within the platform, like methodologies that you could use. But I think when we see our clients going through the qualitative side, sometimes they just go because they want to make sure that the button is the right size or they can find it. And while the participant is telling them what they're doing, they realize, oh, there was a problem there. Oh, that's why the drop-off is happening in our app. And it opens so many conversations. I think it's great. It's great to be able to empower it. And I've seen it. It's hard to get this embedded, I think, into organizations because not everyone is used to listen and try to put their self in where other one's feet. But when it's done, it's life-changing.
Yeah, it is hard. So you have to start with their own perception of themselves as the company. Are they
Mm-hmm.
ready to open up their set in stone understanding of how things should work? And are they ready to change their approach to the clients? Yeah, that's not easy, obviously. So to tackle today's topic, we need to introduce this notion of empathy. So I bet not many listeners have enough of knowledge in psychology to know what is empathy, and let alone what's the difference between sympathy and empathy. So let's define first what is empathy and how is it different from sympathy.
Sure. So I think the key differentiator lies in the level of emotional involvement. So empathy, when someone is very empathetic, is someone that can immerse in another's experience. So I'm literally living this in your shoes, and I can
You can
empathize
feel
with
it.
it. I can feel it. I potentially been through the same or had the same experience, or I'm an empathetic and I'm able to connect with that emotion. Where sympathy, where is similar, but you have certain distance to it. So involves a degree of detachment. So it's about acknowledging another person experience, potentially extending compassion, but you don't necessarily experiencing the same feeling, if that makes sense. So if we see it from a user testing perspective,
Mhm.
we try to blend both because with empathy, we want to allow us to understand the client needs. So we want to empathize with those emotions, with those feelings. But the sympathy is what it help us remain compassionate, to try to have that bigger picture of the whole situation. Okay, this is my business, this is my objective, and this is actually the emotion that are coming from my client. Let's get a business in place, let's try to solve a problem, let's try to, so it's that combination. And that's the difference. One is very attached and the other one is a bit more detached, and you can see it from outside, essentially.
Got it. So if you see somebody answering on your description or problem, will be just nodding to you, and you will see on her face that she understands what you're saying, but she's calm. It's probably sympathy. But we can hear she or her is tearing up, and she's, you can see how she became emotionally involved in your situation. This is empathy. And obviously, empathy is more, should I say, energy demanding state, and you cannot expect from business being empathetically involved all the time. But sympathy should always be in the background. Do not lose the connection with the client, with the customer, and their needs.
Yeah, 100%. And I think from a business perspective, sympathy potentially is what you will have the whole time there, trying to keep it in mind. And the empathy will be something that you will connect to every now and then. And it's important to never forget about empathy, because if we stay only seeing everything outside of the box, or the little cage, like you're just seeing it one perspective, where empathy will give you the other perspective, whether you connect fully with it or you feel it the same way. Yeah, might be, but you need to understand both sides of the story. That's how I like to say it when we try to differentiate it and how to have it present.
Gotcha. So empathy is about an emotional connection. We connect with people all the time. So it happens on a daily basis, but it doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop with people. We build those connections with products we use, with brands we have all around us. And apps, it's one of those things that we're connecting with. So let's talk about connecting with brands specifically. How does it work and why it's important?
Yeah, I think that's a very, very good point, especially now in the digital age that we were talking about how technology brings brands more closely. I guess that would be the best way to say it. I think at this point, consumers have endless options, and it's very important to create genuine connection, to build a difference, to be a differentiator from all of the brand offerings. So ultimately, when we think about brands sell experience, or sell you those feelings that then you can empathize with. Like, for example, if you see a car advertising on TV, or you get an ad on your Instagram, you don't see the features of the car, do you? What you see is probably the family or the person
On vacation, on this.
Yeah, picking up the keys of the car on the counter and then going out. Maybe if it's a bigger car, you go on the countryside and you see how it goes through that. Or maybe all the family listen to music in the car. It's an experience. So from a communication perspective, it's basic to have that empathy there. And from branding perspective, even if we connect it to the trends now, we have influencers now. Why influencers are so successful? Because us as humans potentially can connect more with the influencer, like telling me the story of the brand through their experience. I tell you, oh, I love this because I felt so good when I used this product, or I went through this app and saved my life because I managed to book a taxi, or whatever is the technology that they are offering us. It could be technology, it could be a product, it could be an experience, but we are connecting with the person, right? We're connecting with that influencer that is like us, and ultimately we're buying into the emotion that they are selling. And I think that's in essence why for brands is really, really meaningful and relevant to personalize the content, personalize the experience. So then it's just a waterfall that it connects with those individuals. You need to see yourself there. You need to see yourself using the app. You need to see yourself in that car, going on that holiday.
Exactly.
And that won't happen if if there is no empathy there, if there is no sympathy as well, right?
Right. Quite frankly, I cannot imagine a single brand that isn't built on this notion of emotional connection. Because you know, the most important part of your interaction with a brand is how much do you trust to this brand. When you're making a choice between the apps, it's just like picking up with a number of choices of every product or service you can think of, and trust is the vehicle for you to be connected with this person for a long time, because every time he needs to solve specific problem, specific need, he or she will be approaching your app because he or she trusts in your product. And this is the emotional connection we're talking about. And yeah, just like you were saying, I was yesterday in a mall walking along the lots of advertising for cosmetics, lingerie and stuff, and boy, everything is about emotions. You're being washed in emotional appeal from all those brands. This is how it works. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's once you have so many options, it's a game who can do it better, who can connect better with you, and not being superficial. It should be as authentic as it can be. Otherwise, most of us will feel the cheating and we will
Yeah.
walk away, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's like fostering a relationship, I think, from the brands to us, right? And the stronger that the relationship is, the higher and the loyalty is, and that's ultimately what brands want, right? And as you said, that's why potentially now those videos and advertisements that they are as natural as possible, those are the ones that will have more engagement, because it's the same. Let's forget about companies, forget about tech. How do we connect with each other in the street?
Exactly.
Like when you go to a shop, when you speak with your friends, you build relationships. You know that there is a side of it to build a relationship because you want to have the loyalty from friends, family, partners, like, so I think it's essentially taking those things that sometimes we take for granted from human interactions into the big scales of the companies. And I think marketing is great because that's the marketing's job. Like, how do we build loyalty? How do we get people to connect with us at the personal level? And that's their day to day. But I think it's interesting to see how you can cascade that as a brand into your products. So it's not only the storytelling from marketing, it's not only the shiny brighty ads and everything else that is exposing the brand, but also the product needs to connect with it. I think the technology needs to connect with it. Otherwise, if you see that advertising of the car and you try to go on holidays and you want that to go on holidays, same as the TV ad, and then you buy the car, it doesn't work the same way. You won't have the loyalty, like that loyalty won't exist. So yeah, I think
Absolutely.
cascading it.
Now, how to figure out how good or bad I do with connecting with my app users? So let's assume I do understand the significance of what we're just saying, but how do I assess how am I doing as an app owner with in terms of connecting with my users?
Well, firstly, I think is understanding the different type of ways to connect, which the first way I will suggest is potentially with what it's called qualitative research, and platforms like UserTesting can support with that, which essentially involves observing that user speaking, going through your application, so you can have that empathetic approach and understanding on what the experience is on that side. Secondly, I think I would compare it to more of the numbers, the quantitative side. So potentially a survey, check more the statistics. You have a Google Analytics that tells you when you got on, and sometimes embedded analytics that tells you the behaviors, but it's more like clicks, moves, screens, how many downloads. And I think if you can put side to side those two type of connections, like the numbers and what it tells you the trends, but then you actually look for the why on the qualitative, I think that gives you the base of reaching that out. And I think I would start with Adding a little bit of this at every stage of the product development life cycle. So maybe if there is an existing product, go for, let's see what people think about it, like, and then let's go back. And usually most of our clients start like that. They don't have anything embedded. They start with what they have at the moment and trying to optimize. Applying these both, most of the companies potentially will have the numbers covered. They don't know how many people log into the site, but I think the why and the qualitative is something that is great to plug in. And then take it back a few steps. We have an idea, run the same, see trends on similar ideas, but then ask people, have a brief, sit with someone, and again, it could be through a platform, and ask them how they would feel if they have an app that does X. Then if you are designing, give them a comparison. There is something called A/B testing, which usually is live, and we see it as well in advertising, where they run 2 Facebook campaigns or Instagram campaigns at the same time, and the most successful is the one they leave active. But ultimately, you have 2 things live, where if you're able to embed that why or some type of user testing in it and do the same methodology, you can have quickly some understanding of preferences, whether it's on your discovery phase, trying to understand who you are connecting with, the design compared to designs. Does people like it more, I don't know, in the app or turning the menu upside down? Like, how do they like these? And so like that, that you're working the right way. Same with product teams, adding a bit of this when they are iterating. So hopefully, with a combination of all of these methodologies, lots of rework can be reduced. How many of us lives on a firefighting mode? That happens as well on product development lifecycle. And I think we are not aware of how, if we don't plug a little bit of this everywhere through the whole cycle, we essentially are doing everything all over again to fix. We are trying to fix everything. So I think if we're trying to prevent that, that's how I would mix and match a little bit. Always have the numbers. Organizations care about numbers. That's what tells us how good things are going, but we need to understand the why. So I will plug lots of qualitative insights all across the product development lifecycle.
Got it. It's I think it's really important to understand that in many cases the second component is missing. People are being focused on numbers, and it's kind of a natural trend when you have so many users of your product. At some point, you stop noticing that these are actual people, human beings who are using your app on a daily basis, and it's you have to combat this the trend of being focused on numbers only, and always the factor in the answer to the question why by asking these people and having a feedback.
Yeah, 100%. I got example that I think very quickly that I will help anyone that is listening to understand how that work at the moment. So I work with a client on the retail space in the UK, where they thought they had a problem with drop-offs at the point of checkout because of the sizing sheet that the person could check to check whether they were buying the right size of a dress or a t-shirt, for example. And they kept changing that sizing sheets and access so much. And then, but still, they still had the same drop-off or lots of returns, like it was a massive unbalance between both. And we ran a workshop using the user testing platform, and within 2 hours, they realized that actually that wasn't the problem. They kept working, the product team, the design team, kind of spending lots of time trying to sort out how can we explain the sizes better. And actually, the problem is that they didn't want to register to their website. They just wanted to check out as a guest, and they didn't want to put too many details. It's the same, like, I remember asking some of them, like, have you been A/B testing different options? Yeah. Okay, are you being innovative? No, we just change the small things. Okay, if you have something that doesn't show risk for you, you can put 2 examples in front of people and then validate what you're working on. But I think the retail example is great because we have so many organizations trying to fix a problem, but actually that might not be the problem.
Right, that's a great example. Now let's talk about this customer experience first approach, we all, if you think about it, we all have these examples in our mind of customer experience first, since the technology goes second. Well, think about Apple versus Google, or any company that sells you computers. You can see if you go to a regular mall and looking for a new computer, you see a bunch of laptops with lots of numbers, and you're trying to find your way in this sea of options. And when you go to the Apple store, you have way less options. You have a few solutions that you can easily to pick up and see which one will work. And the focus of Apple's has always been on benefits. What does it do for you? What difference does it make in your life? How useful it is. Versus other companies was always playing the game of numbers. The greater number, the better. It does work for a certain part of the population, but I would argue that the approach of being focused on benefits, not features, works better. So let's talk about this approach, customer experience first.
Yeah, 100%. I think designing a development of products and services based on that is essentially allowing you to be part of their interactions, or everything they do on our day-to-day. And I think we need to remember that every interaction as a customer and a customer has with a company is literally an opportunity to enhance that experience, to connect with what they're feeling, what they're doing. And the world moves way too fast to not think about that, and people want to be pragmatic but also want to enjoy it. But then, so it's not only about sales and marketing, it's also about how, on an end-to-end perspective, all of those touch points actually reflect how centered you are on that customer experience. So that could be the design of your stores. As you said, I think the Apple example is great. There is part of the population that prefer less options. Some others prefer more, or there is some people that prefer an amazing camera and they will go for the phones that have better cameras, as well as others will like a laptop that is easier to use. Like you have Apple people and Microsoft people, like it's just like that. And I think having a culture as an organization in general, anyone that is trying to fix a problem in society, that focuses on experience involving making these connections as part of their decision-making process. I think it goes beyond the numbers. It goes beyond, oh, let me just get feedback. Let me just check what's wrong with a survey, potentially. It's just using the right tools at the right time, but integrating that into what you do on a day-to-day, how you make your decisions. Why would you bring up a new phone to the market? Is it because the camera? Is it because people need to record more videos? Is it because people are not ready to have a camera unless they are very, like, they love photography, but they want to have less space on their bag? Like, it could be anything, but I think if part of the decision making is involved with the whole emotionally resonant with the consumer and with the customer, ultimately you're increasing customer satisfaction, you're increasing loyalty, and you will increase revenue. I know that sometimes we go like product revenue, but there is all of this journey that if we get it right as organizations, or in general as product offerings, is the revenue will come, but it will stay and grow and keep growing. That's why you keep having people that love their Mac and won't change for the world, the same as people that love their PC.
Exactly. Both are emotionally attached. We shouldn't forget that emotional connection, which is everywhere. It's just different. All right, let's imagine for a second I'm a brand. I'm an app brand. And listen to this conversation and I wonder, what should I do for my my approach, my daily activities with my app? I have a development team. I have a team that is working on this design. I have an analytical part of my team. So how can I approach this customer experience first to my app project? What is the
Okay.
strategy?
The strategy. I will, if I would need to work on a strategy with you, I potentially will suggest that we first understand where stage are you on the whole development of this app, whether we are first trying to understand how your audience is gonna appreciate what you're or what's the problem you're solving, or if we are more on the design stage. And then based on the team, I think part of the team could focus on that quantitative side of things. Let's run some surveys to gather more statistical side of things about behaviors, preference, or satisfactions if it is an app you are just improving. And then conduct potentially some usability testing to understand how users interact. And that will come from listening to them, seeing it, connecting, and actually using the platform, seeing their videos, seeing their facial expression. And then like a platform like UserTesting, that's what it could potentially bring, that real-time insight into your process. I say, well, you need either someone to do this for you or get the team empowered with the right tool. So then you could actually add a checkpoint and a milestone on each of the developments. So if you have some designers, making sure they are testing to design and not design to test. Stuff like that, you are making sure you are maximizing the cost of your resources in that sense. You don't want people designing something that won't work. And same with the development side of things. So enough checkpoints after doing all of the surveys and all the statistical side of things, bring more of the usability, qualitative, where you can connect and making sure you're in the right place. I think those milestones will allow you to identify if you are going the right way, and if not, allows you to fail faster and change the journey, but like connecting that way. So I think just building those milestones, and I will keep repeating to anyone that is listening to us today that the milestone and building this into what the day-to-day, it shouldn't be something disruptive. It should be something that is embedded into the design, the development, the concept of the whole work you're doing with your app.
All right, so we're just finishing up the first part of the show, and I do hope that we managed to convince people who are listening to us that empathy-driven approach should and can be a big part of your app project. You shouldn't be, you should always try do your best to keep both parts of the project, the stuff that you can quantify with numbers, kind of a quote unquote rational logical part, and the emotional component, because every single user of your app is driven by emotions. You're appealing to his or her needs, and the numbers will help you to assess the what's going on with your app project on a big scale. But if you don't have the picture of why your product work or doesn't work, doesn't resonate with these people, you're not going to go anywhere. So yeah, empathy-driven approach is a really great addition to your app development strategy, if it's not yet. So yeah, we're going to transition to the second part of the show where every new guest, and you are a new guest in the show, you get the chance to answer a few quick questions, because I want not only give people an insight, new knowledge about specific question on the table, but let them know my guest a little bit better. Here we go. So just a few quick questions. So what smartphone do you have now? Are you one of those people who are switching between these two giants or staying one side all the time?
I try switching. I have an iPhone 15 Pro Max. I love the camera. I love content creation and photography, so I love the big screen and the great camera. I've tried to switch. I tried to be open-minded and try to. I remember having a tablet, but I couldn't connect it everywhere. And if you need to have all of one, otherwise things won't sync. So I'm a Mac person. I'll confess that. Guilty.
Got you. Yeah, it always makes me pause when people are kind of making the case that people who love Apple products are fans, and at the same time, the same people can be fans of any specific brand of cosmetics or clothing. It like there's something different between a fan of any other product and the Apple product. It's about, deep emotional connection, true, but fans just like any other fans of any other product. Nothing
Yeah.
is different here.
Yeah, it's true. It's that connection. And I think also changes when you change as a person. I remember when I was at uni, I used to be a proper gamer and I wouldn't have a Mac for that. But then as the time passed, I used to dream to be in a coffee shop with a Mac that has the little apple in the back. So yeah, I can look like the, I don't know, typical American movie, in New York type of thing. So I guess it depends on how you influence and which experience you want to live, right?
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's jump back in time. Do you remember your first mobile phone, which wasn't a multi-capacity phone like the first iPhone, but the first phone you can put in your pocket, with those small buttons?
Yes, I had a Nokia, I think it was around the 300 series. I remember it was three something, and it was the little one, blue one that looked like a soap. And it had a fancy feature where you can take off the case and put a picture on the back, so you keep memories from I don't know, your friends. It was tiny, but it was the first one with internet and
Oh,
proper. Well, internet. That wasn't internet at the time, was it? You can send messages apart from actually, you can send messages apart from only calling, because I did have a baby Nokia before and I could only call.
good old days when people were trying to use mobile phones as small as possible. What
Yeah.
was really funny, like Um, all right, back to the present. Imagine you left your shiny iPhone 15 Pro at home. You're out. Well, what would be the most missing feature for you?
My music, being able to listen to my music,
Apple
Spotify.
Music or Spotify?
I'm a Spotify user. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Spotify. So I would say music or podcast. I love listening to podcasts on the go. So yeah, that.
and we're recording the one right now. All right. If you look at an iPhone, and I'm not asking about any specifically trendy feature that you can read about. But anything hardware and software wise that will make that device more useful for you. It shouldn't be necessarily more, probably less, but anything that would make it a better tool for you in your life.
Um, I think I will try to keep putting everything in one place. For example, I got my watch, but then also I have my fitness tracker on the other wrist, and I think it's great. But I will potentially just try to reduce stuff that I need to carry with me. But I do love the technology on the whole fitness, sleeping, tracking, and all of that. So I think anything connected with it, it'll be great, and reducing the amount of technology I need to carry with me. Yeah, I think that would be ideal. And I will bring back something like the iPod. So I don't need to be connected to the internet, but I can listen to music and have some experience and disconnect for a second.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, before I let you go, very, very final question. How can people get in touch with you and get more information about what you do?
Sure. So people can find me on LinkedIn as Naksha Girardelli. That's my second surname, but also I'm in social media, in Instagram, Twitter, Threads, all of those as Naksha XOXO. So you got both sides. The side's more of software, and also the coaching side. And you can feel free to message me or connect if you want to know more about all of it.
Terrific. Naksha, thank you so much for coming on the show and spending time with us. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
And that was Naksha Ruiz, solution consultant and user testing. To listen to more episodes, subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher. Just search for Business of Apps and you will find us easily. Remember, we release episodes on Mondays. So subscribe and you will be getting new episodes of this show on your smartphone, tablet, or computer as soon as they're available. And please don't forget to leave us a review or comment on iTunes. It is highly appreciated. And our episodes will also be available on businessofapps.com. Thank you for listening. See you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Business of Apps podcast. For more, head on over to businessofapps.com.